I've been a candle maker for 5 years, and here's what I learned. This video is made for people who might be making candles now, who haven't reached the 5 year mark, or you think about making candles. This video might help you. I'm gonna tell you what I learned, you know what I'm saying, from my experience specifically. So let's get straight into it. First off, I can't believe it's been 5 years. It doesn't feel like 5 years. 5 years is going by really fast. I started in 2021, so technically I guess it'd be 5 years at the end of the year. One of the first things that I learned as a candle maker is that it's not hard, but it's not easy either. I think once you get past the kind of like the testing phase, which I think is the most frustrating phase of candle making, once you get kind of that, probably that and pricing, once you get past that phase, I think it's a lot smoother because it's just repetition, right? Once you kind of got your formula down, it's just repetition and consistency at that point in time. So talking about formula, I think another thing that I've learned is having what your formula, what your formula is. And so for people who don't know what I mean by formula, it's like, okay, what is your candle to fragrance ratio? So for me, I say when I started making candles, it may have took me like I could say 6 to 8 months to really get a formula, but I say maybe a year to like get it like this. You know what I mean? And that's just by like just making candles. Really, you probably at the time I wasn't making as much candles because I didn't have as much money invested in it to be able to buy products to make a lot of candles. But really, it's maybe a year, maybe a little less than that. Honestly, it's not really so much the time limit as it is just like how many candles it takes you to kind of get it right. And I think for me, I was also testing with different waxes. I was trying to decide between soy and coconut apricot wax, which I decided to do coconut apricot wax. I was also testing with like labels, which I still do as well. So it's just finding out what your formula is, man. Once you kind of get your formula down, as far as like this is how I want my candles to smell, this is my fragrance load, this is the kind of wax I want, the kind of wicks that I want to do that. Once you kind of get that, it's pretty much smooth sailing because the only thing you'll be testing after that is if you decide to do like multiple sizes. So for me, I just started doing multiple sizes maybe in the past year and a half or so. So for me, it's testing that. But the only thing I'm testing with those sizes is, do I want to use one wick or two? I'm not really changing my formula too much. I'm not really changing my fragrance, oil amount, fragrance percentage, or the wax. I'm not changing any of that. It's just how many wicks do I want? How big do I want the jar? What's the price for that? So that'll probably be my second thing that I've learned is just having a good formula. That's gonna take you far. The third thing I've learned is I say the third thing I learned, man, is pricing. Like once you cannot underprice yourself to the point where you're giving everybody discounts, but kind of at first you kind of have to. I don't want to say lowball yourself because you don't want to lowball yourself, but I think at first you kind of until you can get the price that you want. I think you kind of have to test it because you have to test if your customer base is going to buy it. I'm not gonna lie, that's still something that I'm working on even to this day is my pricing. My pricing has increased, but so is the price of everything else, so that kind of cut into my profit. So I'm gonna have to probably increase it again, but now I'm trying to decide, do I want to continue to use the same vessels that I'm using? Do I want to use different ones? Because that's going to affect the price even more. And I, kind of have a market a little bit. So I don't want to price myself out of the market. But at the same time, if I just need to find another market, I'll just need to find like another market. And what I mean by that is like who buys my customers. Like, I don't want to outprice my customers, but I also can't keep giving it lower because the market, things are getting more expensive, which means that my candle has to unfortunately get a little more expensive. But I understand the demographic that I kind of have right now. And, I know with everything being expensive, it's kind of hard. So that's something that I'm struggling with right now. But pricing is probably going to be a biggest thing. You want to give yourself enough cushion to where I guess you factor in your time, how long it's taking you to make candles. And they say the rule is 3x, which I kind of agree with, but I think ultimately you have to find a pricing that works with you because sometimes you might not, depending on your candles, you might not be able to do 3x out the gate. But that is like the industry standard. So 3x means that whatever my cost was, like my cost, my time, or whatever, times three. So if it takes me like let's say $5, $7 make the candles, and let's say I do like certain number of candles in an hour, and I want to charge myself $20 an hour, and somehow that comes up to like $9, $10 a candle. That's what it costs. Then you want to charge a minimum of $30 a candle. For me, my pricing is a little more to make a candle, so it's like I kind of have to raise that a little more too, which is kind of hard. So that's something that you want to think about too, pricing, pricing, pricing. But I would say don't worry about it so much. Just start off to the point where as long as you're making a good, 50%, 100%, whatever your return is, as long as you're making a good return to the point where you can take some money for yourself and put some money back in the business, I think that's the most important thing. So you find out what that number is going to be. I think another thing is that I've learned is just building relationships with people. That's probably going to be the most important thing. I've also learned that candles can be more of a luxury item. So you got to treat your brand as that. So sometimes with luxury items, unless you have somebody who's going to consistently buy candles over and over and over again, it's going to be kind of tough, because you will have people that put in bulk orders. But I think the problem that I've run into with my candles is my candles are good. You know what I mean? So because they're good and they last so long, people might not buy as often unless they're stocking up. So if they're stocking up, that's not an item that they'll buy every day or every week, or every 2 weeks. They might buy once a month. They might buy once every, you know what I mean? So with that said, you kind of need to, either make your candles higher so you can sell less, or you have to have more customers that's going to buy your candles in order for you to make money. And that's what, like I said, the pop-ups and the markets and, doing the online and stuff, that's where that comes in handy. But I think that's the hard part sometimes is knowing I have a luxury item technically. And unless, you want candle lovers, that's what you want. You want candle lovers, but you have to consistently beat that. And I think the only way that you can kind of do that is just build rapport with people, build relationship with people to the point where they decide, hey, you're my go-to person for candles. I don't care about Bath and Body Works. I don't care about this. And people will do that. They will make you their sole destination. So make sure that you show love to those people and take care of those people. I would say another thing in regards to candle making is understand you can only really make so many candles. And so I think at some point in time, you have to kind of decide what I want my candle business to be. Is it just going to be me making candles? Because I feel like it's easy to, once you get to a certain point, it's easy to like overwork yourself making candles, especially if you got large orders and stuff like that. And so you also have to understand how much time it's going to take you to make candles. Yes, and this is what I say when I say candles is easy, but candles is hard. This is, I think, one of the hard parts is having to you don't want to overwork yourself. You know what I mean? So for me, right now I don't take like large orders. Usually whatever I have on my site, that's what I'm selling. Sometimes people hit me up on the back end, hey, can you do this? And I'll do that. But right now I don't take a lot of large orders just because one, I don't have the time to do it. Two, I'm not trying to overwork myself. And so that's when, a lot of people start doing like the candle making classes and the events and stuff like that, because then you don't have to work as much technically to make the same amount of money or more money. So you have to think about that. And I would say another thing is tying into that is understanding what your goals are for candle making at first. I think when I started candle making, I didn't see it as a like get rich idea, because I'm not saying you can't make money making candles, but I think most candle makers are probably like small business owners, but you have to decide like, okay, if I do candles, what other things am I gonna do? Find some other, I guess, accessory type products that you can add to your candle making that might be easier for you to sell, easier for you to make than making a lot of candles. But honestly, if you spend your time wisely, you can make candles kind of quick. Like you can make 100 in a couple of days or a day or whatever. It just really just depends on your process, and that goes back to your formula. Once you got a process that work, you can like run through them because you're batching them out. So it's like if I'm making 12, 16 candles at a time in a warmer, and I'm just next one. I'll be doing it for like 5-6 hours. I can knock out a lot of candles. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think about that. That's another thing. Like I said, and your goals. Like understanding, what do I want for candle making? Is it to get rich? Is it to build a brand around candle making? Do I want to own a candle bar? I think one of my next things that I plan to do is open like a candle bar or something like that, or a candle lounge. I'm working on the concept. So you have to think about things, that nature. 5 years comes and goes really fast. Like I can't believe I've been doing this almost 5 years now. I don't really feel like it. It feels like more like 3, but it is the repetition. But I say the most important things you got to do is true to you. I don't really do a lot of frills and stuff on my candles because I just don't want to do that. Now, could that cost me some money? Maybe, because people, there are people who do extra and you're combating against other candle makers. But honestly, if you got something that people want, man, And this is why it's so important to build like community and supporters. They'll go to you before they go to somebody else just because they know you. You know what I'm saying? Or just because they see how you treat them or their customer experience and things like that. So that's one thing. And I would say also like build beyond candles. Like, you know what I mean? Like don't just focus on candles, because I do feel like there's a cap that you can make as far as candles, unless you have the proper machinery or you have more help. Which if that's what you want to do, you can. But I think in order for you to kind of grow your business as a candle maker, you kind of have to look into other avenues later on down the line. But that's once you get consistent with it. Don't overwhelm yourself with it. Don't try to do too much with it. I think really candle making, I love candle making because it can be so simple. Like I only made 12-ounce jars for like the first 3 years. That's all I made. And that's just because I was still getting out my formula. I wanted to get really good at that one thing before I offered sizes and stuff like that. So just keep it simple as much as you can. Make it nice, make it look good, and I think you'll be your selling point, man, to sell people. So this has been my experience really with candle making for the past 5 years. I hope this video has helped you. If so, drop a like, a comment, and subscribe. And let me know if you want to see more candle making content and things like that. Yeah, till next time. Peace.